The water moved before the wind. That was the first thing that stuck. I had my pole and notebook and a cheap plastic bucket, and the flooded rows looked flat until a ripple pushed against my boots. No breeze. The rice heads were still. The ripple came in a clean line and tapped my shins. Then another. My phone vibrated in my pocket for no reason. A long, steady buzz. I thought I got a call. Screen was blank. "Feel that?" I said. "Just the pump," Louis said. He was my partner on counts. Best friends since we were kids. He pushed his hat back and looked at the levee. There was no pump running. We worked the transect. That's all we did these days. Counts, damage notes, pest checks. It was already hot, that early haze that makes the far end of the field look soft. Heat shimmer hung over the water surface, like the road in summer. The hum came in layers, not one tone. It was like standing near a hive, but deeper. I said something about the dye markers, and the hum crept up and answered me, like it stepped over my words. "You hear that?" I said. "It's in my teeth," Louis said. He laughed once. It was tired. We moved slow between the rows. Rice stalks brushed our waders. Something small kept knocking into my knees. I looked down, and the ripples went the wrong way. They went against my steps. They went upwind, if there had been wind. When I stopped, they kept going, in lines. Rice stalks bent in paths that kept to each other, like a hand moving across the field, but it wasn't a hand. Each stalk leaned and came back. Leaned and came back. Row to row, clean. "Fish?" he said. "No fish," I said. We hadn't seen a frog all morning. No frogs, no minnows, no dragonflies. A heron feather was stuck to a stalk at knee height. The shaft had neat rows of tiny bites along it, like a zipper. The hum rose once when I touched it, and then flattened out. We chalked it up to fatigue. Long week. No one sleeps in harvest season. I was on my third thermos. Louise was on energy drinks that make your hands shake. We were edgy and stupid. I brushed past something ragged in the water and felt sharp points through the neoprene. Just a line, fast and mean. I jerked my leg up. 3 neat rows of welts reddened through the wader, even though it was thick. The rows ran straight across my shin. They leaked a little down into my boot. "God," I said. "They bit through." Louis squatted to look. He kept one hand on my knee, steadying me. "What did?" he said. "Don't know," I said. The smell hit me then. A chemical stink. Vinegar and metal. It came off the water right into my nose and mouth. I could taste it. My phone buzzed again and then shut off hard, like it ran out of juice. It had 50%. By the time we hit the levee on the north end, the hum had weight. It made my ribs feel strange. I kept swallowing. Luis looked pale. We sat on the dirt and I pulled my boot off. Egg foam stuck to the laces. It had a clean pattern, not random. Off-white, bubbles and little lines, overlapping arcs, like someone printed them. The same neat rows as the bites. "Gross," he said. He flicked at it with a stick and it held together. I scraped it off. It smeared and stuck to my glove. When I wiped it on the levee, it left a faint stain that grabbed at my fingers. The smell got thicker with it, sharp and sour like rust and bad fruit. We kept going. We had work. We were supposed to check for new colonies. We set light traps in the afternoon. Baited cups along the wetter channels, some sticky boards along the levee where it was dry. I sprayed a narrow band of knockdown along a cut where we saw the most movement. I watched that spot for 10 minutes. Nothing flew out. The hum shifted. It wasn't louder. It was closer. "Back soon," Luis said. He kept tying flags. We split and met in the middle. We always did that to cover more ground. I didn't like it that day. The field felt like a room when you can't see the corners. By our second pass, the ripple lines had started to run parallel with the rows. Not random anymore. The rice bent in clean paths. You could see where they'd gone. It made lanes between the plants. The lines crossed the levees too. In the mud, little mounds popped up like fast anthills, stacked pellets and a small hole on top. Each mound had the smell. You stepped close and your eyes watered. My tongue felt numb. When I looked back, there were more mounds. I hadn't seen them build. They were just there. We heard the horn from the highway and both flinched at it. Everything in the field didn't. All of it kept that same slow bend and return, like it ignored the world. My phone started vibrating non-stop with no caller. Then Luis's did it too. He hit the button. It wouldn't turn off. The screen flickered, lines jumping the way old speakers do when you hold a phone near them. "Bad day," he said. He tried to smile. He held the phone to his ear, and the hum climbed up it and went into his jaw. He spat and swore. We checked the traps at dusk. A few cups had overflowed with foam. The lids stuck when I tried to twist them. Egg foam in the same repeating arcs glued the rims. Our sticky boards weren't catching anything useful. A few small bodies I couldn't name. Pale and soft and connected to each other with threads that looked like plant fiber until you broke them. They came up in clumps, not singles. The spray line I laid down had a clean path along it where nothing moved, but at both ends the water dimpled and stayed dimpling, and the dimples closed in on the path like hands pinching. "You see that?" I said. "Yeah," he said. He spit again and wiped his mouth. There were neat rows of tiny welts on his lower lip. I saw new ones on his wrists. He didn't show me until I asked. He rolled his sleeves. 3 sets of rows, down the forearm to his elbow, just under the hair. Even spacing. No swelling. Just red and raw like rash made with a ruler. "Didn't feel half of them," he said. "Just itching." "Scratched them?" "Scratched them?" "No." We made a bad choice after dark. We came back with headlamps and horns. The boss wanted proof. If it was a new pest or an outbreak, someone had to write it. That was me. By then, the perimeter had closed in on itself. It was different. You could see where we weren't supposed to go. Rows near the south levee dropped down, almost flat, like bodies under them holding them. The water between plants looked thick. Something skinned across it and didn't break the surface. The hum changed with every step. When I said left, it went down. When I said stop, it went up. We joked once, except it wasn't a joke. "Hey," Luis said, "stop." I stopped. The hum went up. We looked at each other. We both breathed too fast. We tried another spray band. I went wide with it. The droplets hung in the headlamp beam, turned into fog and settled on my arms. The smell got wild. Vinegar and metal until my throat closed. The lines collapsed around the spray and opened again. I watched them do it. They pulled back and then came back in. I expected scatter. I got a circle tightening the way a crowd tightens. The water made low waves that slapped my boots. It looked like wind on a lake, but the air was still. The heat hung over us. I watched the heat shimmer over the water at night. Shouldn't have been there. It wavered, and things moved within it. Small, and many. They touched the light and darted back. Then they didn't dart back. They held. They formed a line that went from the bank to a floating board. A living bridge, bodies locked to each other, a slick curve, and the line threw over. They used themselves as a path to cut us off from the levee. "Back," I said. "Now." Now. We stepped. It wasn't enough. They formed the bridge again, ahead of us this time. 2 lanes, then 3. The lanes rippled and climbed on themselves. They made a wall a few inches high and kept it between us and the ladder over the gate. I swung the pole at it. The pole came back heavy with bodies. They fell and reformatted. It wasn't random. It had purpose I could feel from the push on my ankles. It pressed in and let go in a pattern that had time to it. We found more of the egg foam on our packs, on the straps at our shoulders, on the canister tops, trails of it on the zippers, in the same clean arcs as on my bootlaces. A thin strip of it ran down the back of Luis's waiter where I had grabbed him earlier. We didn't make a big thing of it then. We should have. At the time, it just made me mad. I scraped at it and it stretched like old glue. We switched to plan B, noise and light. I don't like bad strobe, but we used what we had. Our headlamps had a flash mode. I told Luis to set his to strobe and point low. I set mine high. I took my phone and put the alarm on full and held it to the water. He did the same. The phones vibrated with that same hum on top of the alarm, like it was riding it. The swarm pulled back in a neat ring around us. It didn't scatter. It made a ring. Rice stalks bent out and stayed bent. Water rippled away in bands. The ring opened ahead like a door. In that circle, there was a mat, woven stalks and bodies. You think you'll miss that when you tell it in a report. You won't. It was obvious. It was put together. The bodies on the mat were not moving except in the pulse that ran through the whole field. The mat had a low dome. It looked like someone had set a rib cage under it. Under that dome, something heavy pushed up and down. Not fast. Slow, steady. The queen was there. I don't know what else to call it. It pulsed when the hum pulsed. When the hum climbed because I said something, it pulsed faster. It responded to us. Water popped in small bubbles around the dome. Each pop came in time. I could see a pale shine under the woven layer and flashes of wet. I didn't need the detail. It was there, and it directed all of it. Luis breathed. No, like that. He took one step toward it, not away. It made me sick to watch him. His boots lifted heavy. The ring closed behind his heel and opened at his toe. I grabbed his strap and felt the egg foam under my hand crush and reset. We made another bad choice. We thought following the trail would let us end it. The smell got sharp to the east. We could smell vinegar and metal in a line, walking along the levee. It smelled like paint thinner in a straight path. We followed it with our lamps low. We stepped into it, and in every stalk we brushed left a mark on our suits. My tongue went numb again. The ring moved with us. It stayed in the field and mirrored each step in time. It set the perimeter tighter and tighter. I thought that line was theirs, that they were marking the way to the nest. It took too long to see it was ours. The egg foam dried on our boots in those neat arcs, and we made the line everywhere we stepped. We had been laying down the trail all day. We told them where we were, where to build, where to tighten. I only knew it when I saw my footprint in shallow water by the gate. In the light, it looked white, not brown. A heel print with the arcs printed clear, like a stamp. Another on top of it where I had doubled back. Every step hummed. "Back," I said. My voice shook. The hum answered. The queen pulsed faster. The water rose on my shin, then my knee. It wasn't rain. The gate we had crossed earlier was under another inch. Mud mounds had popped up on both sides, open holes in them like mouths. Air bubbled out and sucked back in. The hum pushed through those holes and made a hollow sound. We didn't talk after that. We moved. The ring tightened right to our thighs, our hips. Bodies climbed our waders and stuck like wet rice. They found skin under my cuffs and behind my knees. They bit in rows, clean rows, down my calves, up the back of my thigh. I hit them with my hand, and my hand came away with a sheet of them stuck to my glove, connected by those thread lines. They let go when I shook, then reformed on the water and flowed forward again. The living bridges built across the channel, and we stepped on them because there wasn't anything else. It held for one step and then softened. My boots sank and they clamped at the same time. I screamed. I didn't plan to. I just did it, and the hum jumped right with it. It felt like a bass note shoved up into my head. We hit the ladder over the gate, and the ladder was slick with egg foam. I went first. Luis waited low and swung the pole. He knocked a section of bridge away, and the hole filled in at once. I got 1 foot up, and biters found the cuff gap at my ankle. They ran in rows up my Achilles. I kicked and scraped my heel on the rung until skin came with it. They didn't stop. "Light," I said. "Noise. Now." He did both. He flashed his headlamp at my legs, and I pulled the phone and turned the alarm to the highest tone and set it on the metal gate. The metal carried the sound. It rattled under my hands. The hum got messy for once. It layered wrong. It beat against the alarm and slipped. That gave me 1 second. I hauled up and over. I didn't feel my left leg for a few breaths. I turned and put my lamp full into Luis's face. He flinched and almost fell back. "I didn't mean to blind him. Just make the space open." He shoved up at last. He screamed too. His voice cracked, and the hum cracked with it. A weird, perfect echo that told me she was listening. On the levee, the water ran down the side we came from. It had crept up and over while we were fighting. It poured back into the ditch and took sheets of bodies with it, and the sheets clung to whatever they hit, and then they let go and moved as one again. It wasn't over. They came up both sides. They used the mounds like steps. They made new mounds out of themselves and used those too. They came anyway. We ran. I don't run well in waders. No one does. I could hear them in my boots, trapped with my foot. I could feel egg foam squish between my toes. It had that same pattern. The lights of the truck hit the top of the levee and my relief hurt. Luis beeped the horn in his panic. He hit it too long and it stuck. It blared and then died. The headlamps were all we had. I threw my pack in and yanked at my laces. My fingers wouldn't work. They were numb and sticky. The foam didn't want to let go. I used my knife on it. I cut the laces and peeled the boot. A sheet of bodies came with it and slid off and went under the truck to nowhere. I threw the boot. It splashed and didn't float. It went down like a rock, and the water flattened over it and then rippled away against the air. We didn't talk. We didn't count. We got in. He drove. I hit the headlights high and pointed them at the gate. It'd buy us some room. I put both phones on the dash, alarms screaming. The sound made my nose vibrate. It made my eyes blur. It broke the lines where it hit. That was all we needed. We pulled off the field road in ruts. The hum came up in the floorboard. I felt it in my heels. He hit a bump and I thought it was the end of the levee, but the field stayed behind us. The hum didn't. It stayed with us. On the bridge over the canal, I rolled the window down and spit blood. My tongue burned. There were neat rows of bite marks on the inside of my lower lip. I could feel them with my teeth. Luis had the same. He kept licking his like he could flatten them. We didn't say it out loud right then, but we both saw the twists. The trail we followed was ours. We walked ourselves into the ring. They marked us and we told them where to build. That was the whole trick. We went back every time. The perimeter got tighter because we let it. He parked at the office trailer. It was late. No one else was there. The hum didn't stop when he killed the engine. It came up thin from the door frame and from the vents and from our clothes where egg foam dried in clean arcs I could see in the light. He said, "You okay?" "No," I said. I laughed once. It came out wrong. "You?" "No," he said. He put his head on the wheel for a second. When he lifted it, there were 3 neat rows of red on his forehead where the rubber had touched his skin. Perfect rows. He hadn't moved. We stripped in the gravel. We hosed off with a field shower. The water didn't help. The foam didn't wash. Not fast. It went stringy, then thinned and flowed to the drain. And what ran into the drain made a small hum I couldn't explain, and then stopped when I turned off the water. My hands shook hard. I had one thought. Stupid. Late. Take the boots with me. Get them tested. I grabbed them. They were lighter than they should have been with all I scraped off, but they still held a shine. Egg arcs crusted the tongue and the heel inside. Clean patterns. Repeating. I shoved them into the footwell at my knees. We drove home in silence. We kept our alarms on because the quiet made me gag. The hum rode both sounds. It sat underneath and waited, and then it climbed it like a ladder. The lights of the highway didn't blink. Nothing else moved. If someone had followed us, I would not have seen them. I got one more surprise before I shut up. We stopped at a light, and the truck shuddered, that idle shake old trucks have. My phone was off by then. I had held the buttons down until it forced itself black. It lay face down on the seat. No lights. No service. The seat rattled anyway. A steady, layered vibration. Not the engine. Not the road. The boots at my feet hummed like a hive in summer. Egg foam on the laces trembled in neat little rows, and each row jumped to a note I had heard all day. The water in the half-empty bottle in the cup holder rippled against the door. It ran toward me. The hum came through the floor and through the pedal and into my ankle. It answered when I swallowed. It grew when I said, "Don't," to no one. And under that, bottom of it all, I could hear her, slow and steady, the pulse from the mat still beating inside the cab, as if I had brought the field with me. Mains. Hey, I hope you enjoyed that one. If you did, make sure to subscribe and leave a like. It really helps the channel. And if you're not too scared yet, check out one of the other stories waiting for you. See you in the next one.